and welcome to Just One More Cookie, a podcast about two sisters' journeys toward complete health and wellness. We definitely don't have it all figured out, and we're still in the thick of it, but we are enjoying the ride. We'd love for you to come and join us for just one more cookie.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just One More Cookie. I know that we've been a little bit missing in action as of lately, but everything kind of just happened. I know like so many people say that 2020 was a crazy year for them. 2020, while crazy and while really difficult, a lot of really great things have happened. And one of the really major things is that we started this podcast. And it's so funny because we started it just by saying, hey, we should start a podcast. I think we have things to say. Let's chat. So this whole year has been a definite learning experience for us. And one of the things that we learned is this time of year is not the best time of year for recording, especially when it comes to Abigail, because you work in the healthcare industry and you're doing a lot of drug testing and a lot of, I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing?
We're doing a lot of flu. It's flu season. So
yeah.
Very busy.
Yeah. So we took a little bit of time off. Just to make sure that we weren't piling on a whole bunch of stuff onto our plate. So we have 2 more episodes left that we're going to do in season 1. And then we're going to take a little bit of time to brainstorm over the holidays. And we are going to charge up for season 2. So be looking for us at the beginning of the year for season 2. And the way that we're going to do it from this point forward is that we won't be recording at the end of the year. We'll be doing the recording at the beginning of the year for you to just kind of partake in. And this will, for future, be our time off. But we're really excited that you tuned in because we are releasing this episode around the holidays because this time for anyone who is watching their weight, who's concerned about their body, who is very health conscious, this time of year can bring us the most anxiety. It can be a time, even though like it's family time, it's like documented the time when most people face the greatest amount of depression. They feel lonely. And a lot of times that can cause us to go back to eating. And then just all the other things surrounding the holidays that can just set us up for failure. So today we're going to be talking about surviving the holidays. But before we start, I want to share one of my favorite things. So I had a company reach out to me, I want to say a month ago, and they're called Bara Sportswear, BARA Sportswear. I'm going to put the link into the show notes, both in YouTube and within our podcast description for you to look. And they sell leggings, they sell sports bras, they even sell like regular t-shirts, they sell little like athletic dresses. So it's a combination of like athletic wear and then athleisure, which is something new that's kind of hitting the market, which is the idea of like walking around in leggings, which is absolutely wonderful. But the thing that I really like about this company is that their leggings are super, super quality. I love to work out, and a lot of times when I'm working out, I'm sweating like crazy. Especially when I'm doing like a cycling class, I'm bouncing all over the place. So the thing that I really like about these leggings is that the band is nice and snug without it being too tight and like making you have like a muffin top. But they have like a control top. The sports bras are so comfortable. The material is super comfortable. And they always have major sales. And the thing that I like too is that I feel like it's the quality of Fabletics without having to pay like the monthly subscription fee that you have to pay. Like it's kind of a one and done. And I also have a discount code. So I'm going to include that as well. But I know that they have some extended sales that they do for you to try out. And they're awesome. I love what I've bought and I plan on buying more from them. So if you're looking to expand your workout wardrobe, this is a great place to start.
All right. Well, that's really exciting. I'm actually going to have to check that out because I love a lot of times my pajamas or my loungewear. Pretty much as soon as I get home, I take off my uncomfortable work clothes or whatever and step into some workout, some yoga pants or some sweats or whatever. So I'm definitely going to have to check it out. And I do like the ones that suck you in because there's nothing worse than trying to work out and you just have all kinds of shaking and jiggling going around. So I'm definitely going to check that out. So,
Yes, and when I say suck you in, it's not suck you in to where you can't breathe. You know, like when it
mhm.
sucks you in, and then when you sit down and you do that, like, huh, then that sound. You don't do that with these. Like they're very breathable. I ride my bike in them all the time too because I bike a lot. They absorb sweat, which is important. So there's so many
Mhm.
like but and they're pricier, right? They're pricier than going on Amazon. But what I have found, and you know me, like I want the best deal. But when it comes to leggings, because I wear them so much and because they're multifunctional, it's like I've been kind of more apt to pay a little bit more because I'm doing so many things, and there's nothing worse than an uncomfortable pair of leggings that roll down or that don't absorb sweat, like all the other cheap stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that that you want to spend the extra money just because of the quality. So I'm excited to check that out for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into this week. So, we actually, every year, the holidays are always a rough time, especially for me. Well, I know it's for everybody. And I feel like because it's all right one after another, because you have Thanksgiving and then you have Christmas and then you have New Year's. And then, of course, everybody has a Christmas party. So there's usually people have potlucks at work. You'll do, especially if you're in a relationship. So you'll have your family Christmas and you have your significant other family Christmas. Just, it seems like it's something every week. And so you're constantly, and always, these parties are always focused and centered around food. So I know it can be a very difficult time. It's usually when, if we are going to fall off the wagon, this is when we're going to do it. It's very easy to backslide during this time. So we actually are recording this post Thanksgiving, but pre Christmas. So we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about some of the issues that we had with Thanksgiving, at least me, myself, and then talk about what we can do so that we are ready to go into December, go into the Christmas holiday, and hopefully give us a little bit of ammunition in our belt to kind of, beat this. So, let's talk about first some of the pitfalls and why this trips us up so much. So, like I said, probably the big thing is more get-togethers, of course, and like especially, some people go home for the holidays. Like Amy, I know you're going to come home, so it's like we don't see you on a regular basis. So of course, people are gonna want to hang out. We're gonna, this is the time of year when you get together with, your distant family that you don't often see. Although this year, that might be a little different. But it just seems like it's a celebration time, and it one after the other. Like I said, I feel like constantly it's like, really, I have to go to another party? Come on.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the prevalence of it makes it so difficult.
Yeah, and like the things that they're serving at these parties are never like, oh, let me load up on vegetables. Like it's usually a lot of potlucky stuff, which is ends up being sweets or like carb driven, or just like ends up being hard to track if you're like somebody who tracks
Mm-hmm.
your macros or somebody that does points, or you're trying to do calories. Like when you go there, it's not like you have the opportunity to like really know what you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
I think another pitfall too is like that time of year marks like specific food trends that are just at that time. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
think of like every year, Christmas Eve, if I'm going to come home, like I'm going to eat Aunt Glenda's sugar cookies. Like
Absolutely.
hands down, those are going to be there. I already called mom and I was like, what is the status on the chocolate chip cookies? What is the consensus? And she was like, well, I don't know. I said, no. Okay. So I'm glad I called. Yes, we are making those for Christmas Eve, right? Because it's like there's certain, like, especially if you're trying to be health conscious through the rest of the year, there is going to be really great food at these parties because that's when people are making their best cakes. That's when people are
Mm-hmm.
making the macaroni and cheese, like hearty food. It's very rare that you go to these parties and people are like serving like vegetable platters or like light sandwiches. No, you're eating a lot and there's a lot available. And it's like, like it's only this time of year, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so then there's like this, like almost expediency of, well, I got to eat it because Aunt
Mhm.
Glenda will not be making these cookies in March. So I
Right.
have to eat them. And I can't just eat one. I should possibly have 5. And then when I leave, I should possibly take a platter of 10 of them home, you know? So,
Right.
but there's those like once a year treats that we crave, or just the treats in general that are categorized for that time of year that make us want to go to that food because we're like, oh, it's going to be gone.
Right. Yeah. And especially with that, since it is those once a year treats, I think it's sometimes so hard to come up with a plan. It's like, well, what do I do? Because I want to have, like, I agree with you. And that's a big thing is Aunt Glenda's cookies. So if, I'm not going to get a chance to eat them until Christmas Eve 2021, I better stock up. So it's harder to stick with a plan or even make a plan. And yeah, the so many things are beyond your control. It's like you don't have your little controlled environment. Like me, I don't have my regular dinner that I eat every day or every other day. I don't have my points planned out because I mean, honestly, these get-togethers, I feel like it's a carb feast. I'm like, is there any other kind of food at this? It's just one carb after another. So to try to go in, and I think that really trips us up, is it's too difficult for us to have a plan, or we don't want to have a plan because we have those special once a year treats. So I think sometimes if we don't go in there with a plan, it can really trip us up for sure.
Yeah. And I think the idea of without a plan, you're setting yourself up for failure, anyways. And maybe the word isn't even failure. You're without a plan, sometimes it can make you feel out of control. And there's nothing
Mhm.
worse than feeling out of control. It's like
Right.
you want to be able to enjoy the holidays, but not let the holidays control you and make the holidays make you feel overwhelmed and just out of control and regretful. So instead of having like all of these great memories of family or games or fun, it's like you only focus on, I can't believe I ate that much, or I can't believe I ate that. Because when you don't have a plan, you just come in and it's like, okay, based on how I feel, based on this environment, based on life, I'm just going to eat. And sometimes that can make us feel real chaotic. And I think too, just the general culture of holidays, especially in the United States, is I'm about to eat.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially Thanksgiving. I feel like
oh yeah.
that's the definition of it. Of course, it comes right over, they come hand in hand. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, I'm about to smash on a whole lot of food.
Yeah. And you have like, the 2 or 3 plates, you got all the servings, then you have the leftovers. Because once again, it's just like really great savory food that you don't eat all the time. So sometimes you can really lean into that. And of
Mhm.
course, less of the emphasis is on it because you're thinking, well, everybody's overeating.
Yeah,
Like,
it's socially acceptable. Like,
yeah,
of course,
of course
everybody
you're
else is.
overeating. Of course you're having 4 plates. It's like we celebrate
Right.
like on Instagram, right? I was looking yesterday and it was like plates. It reminded me of when we would go to buffets, right? And dad would
Yeah.
always have like icing plate
Yeah.
every time. And I used to think like, you can go up more. Like, it didn't matter. Every plate he got, it was like every space of that plate was filled and then
Yeah.
to like a mountain. But it's like we look at these, like, I'm looking at these pictures and I'm not thinking, are they okay? Right?
Yeah.
Because like every day I was posting pictures of like huge gargantuan plates of like macaroni and cheese dressing and talking about how I had 4 plates.
Uh-huh.
Someone would probably have like an intervention, like, are you good?
Yeah. Somebody would be side-eyeing you like, oh, what is she
Yeah.
doing?
When you go to holiday meals, as long as I'm not going to say nobody because that seems like a sweeping generalization, but
Mhm.
I would assume that the majority of people are just like not looking at each other saying, thirds? You're getting
Yeah.
thirds? It's more like you're getting thirds. Okay, can you get me a plate?
Grab me something too.
I know we just had 5 brownies, but
Right.
you're getting up. Can you get me the cheesecake?
Yeah.
Because why? Why not? We're sitting here. Yeah. So I think like leaning into the culture of it, knowing that like it's socially acceptable is
Mhm.
what we embrace. And we make so much food anyways.
Right. Yeah. And I think that sometimes, with all of these family gatherings, sometimes you can have some pressure from, your family or your friends, like, just eat it. You're not going to get to a chance to have it. Are you sure you don't want to have some more? You want seconds, especially when it comes to packing everything up. Are you sure you don't want to take this home with you? Take some more. I don't want it to be here. Because, of course, especially if you have Christmas at your house or you have Thanksgiving or whatever, you don't want that in your house. So you are trying to shove it into anybody's hands that you can. You are almost on the down low trying to like throw it in their purse when they're not looking. So, of course, when you go other places, they're going to try to do the same thing to you. So you got a lot of pressure. And, it's when we talked about in our, one of our saying yes episodes and or just say no, and so you don't want to make them feel bad, especially if it's like your aunts or uncles or your grandparents or somebody that's you don't want to disappoint, and then so you're like, well, I mean, I guess you can just give me a little plate of mashed potatoes, I'll take it home. So I think there is that pressure, and or I guess the I don't know. It's positive peer pressure or negative peer pressure. I don't know. But anyways, it's like they're trying to take care of you, and we want you to just, have a good time. Eat this. It's delicious. And sometimes it's hard to say no to that.
Yeah, and I will say this, I've experienced this other end of the spectrum as well, right? Where because there's people who have known me at over 300 pounds, and there's people that know me now. It's like sometimes when I'll be in certain environments and I'll be holding back, or like if there's a bunch of like really savory things, and I'll choose like, oh, I'll just have like a light meat and like some vegetables, right? Because I've chosen like, okay, I'm not going to like go crazy at this meal per se. And I'll come and sit down and somebody will look and they'll be like, well, you don't have to be here dieting, like live a little,
Yeah.
like I don't know how to live. Like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you for that permission. Like I know how to live,
Yeah.
but sometimes there is that like peer pressure of, if you're like trying to hold back and like maybe eat healthier, that somebody's going to like call you out, which I don't care. But I think that sometimes, especially people who don't like scenes or they're more introverted,
Mhm.
can get really nervous when someone's like, why aren't you eating everything? Why is there so little food on your plate? Right?
Mhm.
Like I've had people tell me, do you have body dysmorphia? Like, why aren't you eating more? And the people say the stupidest things. Let's go there.
Yes,
I'm
they
like,
do.
body dysmorphia. No, I just don't want 10 Tootsie Rolls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, um, there can be that peer pressure as well. But I think like here's the main thing. And this is the basic. The food is delicious.
It really is
That's the
amazing.
biggest pitfall. This food is amazing. I
Yes.
remember last year, um, I was invited to a Friendsgiving on Thanksgiving last year. And I remember it was later than normal. So I usually will go with the family that I tutor for, and we go to this downtown restaurant, and they have like a massive Thanksgiving buffet. It is to die for. It's very expensive. I thoroughly enjoy myself. So last year I was like, no, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to go to this Friendsgiving. So strike one, the Friendsgiving didn't start till 6:30 p.m.
Ooh, that's late.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, like what happens with the rest of the day?
Well, right, because you don't want to eat a bunch during the
Exactly.
morning, so then you starve yourself. It's like going to the grocery store on an empty stomach. So
Yeah,
you go and you just grab anything in sight. Like, I need to eat this. I'm starving.
exactly. So like I didn't eat anything and I'm dying. I am literally dying. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, once I get there, everything's going to be good. Everything's going to be fine. I was bringing a dessert. So I brought like they were like pumpkin cookies with icing in the middle from Walmart. I go inside this house, beautiful house. And everyone in the building was like very small and very fit. Now, I'm not stereotyping them at all, but I'm like surveying the dishes, right? So I look at the dishes and it's like salad, roasted Brussels sprouts, tofurkey, which is tofu turkey.
Oh.
Another meatless turkey, carrots.
This sounds horrible.
Yes. And then peppers, raw peppers.
Oh,
So I'm
that
sitting
was
there.
it?
That was it. I'm sitting there and like literally the inside walls of my stomach have deteriorated. Like they've feasted on itself. My stomach is feasted on itself. And I'm saying it's already 6:30 and I'm like, okay, there's no redeemable qualities of this meal, but I'm still hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So from 6:30, I am not kidding. From 6:30 to 8, we hung out. Hung out. So they're like giving us drinks and we're chilling and we're talking. The guy who's hosting this, it was him and his wife. Part of his chatting was, I don't understand how people can eat so early on Thanksgiving. And
Wait a second. Wait a second.
It's bedtime, sir. Then we're at 6 p.m.
So you got there at 6:30 and didn't eat until 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock. And all that we had waiting for us was rabbit food. And I'm like, okay.
That is so stupid.
So then I was looking at
I hope you didn't go there this year.
I didn't. My offering was obviously the Walmart non-vegan treat, which come to find out, this was a vegan Thanksgiving. I didn't even know I was being invited to a vegan Thanksgiving. I would have given a kind no.
You should have taken your cookies in the bathroom and just ate.
Well, then, okay, so then
a
guy brings chocolate chip vegan cookies with walnuts. So somebody, I want to say it around 7:30, like grabbed one. And I looked at her and we made this like eye contact of like, yes, I'm starving. You're starving. Let's just, these other people who literally live on Sprouts their entire life are fine. But I am a herbivore. I graze. Wait, no, I'm a carnivore. I'm not like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So I started eating these vegan chocolate chip cookies. I promised by the end of the night I had 12 of them. I had so many vegan chocolate chip cookies. The tofurkey, both of them were horrid. I was horrified.
What is it even made of? Like, well, I've never had tofu before.
I didn't want to know. All I know is that it wasn't turkey. I had so many Brussels sprouts. I got a stomach ache. And then I was like, while I was eating the peppers, I was like, my body started to zone out. It was like nutrients were coming into my body, but my body was like, this is so unenjoyable. We're literally just shutting this off for you. So it was just like my mouth was moving. And the only enjoyment I had was eating the vegan chocolate chip cookies. By the end of the night, I went home starving and then like just horrified because the next day I was like, Thanksgiving is over. It was the day that all of this possible deliciousness could come into my life.
You wasted it.
I ate the same thing that their family rabbit ate that night. Like they had 2 rabbits. And I was thinking, is this their dinner or is it ours? Because this will sustain none of us.
Yeah,
like,
right.
None of us. So it's horrifying. But I think that's like the draw of these holidays is that it's a time to enjoy really great food that you don't always get to enjoy.
Yeah.
Really long story because I'm very passionate.
That's okay.
I'm not going to say never, but you will be hard pressed to find me on a Thanksgiving, not somewhere that has turkey. Yeah. And I didn't even realize that would be something that I was going to say. But from that point forward, I drove home and said, never again. Yeah. I need a real turkey. The head must have been chopped off. It must be cooked. I will not have anything made of grass and purified dirt that's shaped into a turkey.
Well, that's a great plan.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we can do so that we don't set ourselves up for failure. So let's see. So first thing I would say, probably your best weapon against this is to make a plan. We talk about this a lot. I feel like this, for when we're talking about health, pretty much you can never go wrong by making a plan. So I think that, well, with us, we have, wherever we go, like the same, you pretty much have the same food every year. And a lot of people are like that. They go to the same family member's house, the same person cooks, or, every family member has their own signature dish that they bring every year. So a lot of times what you're going to get when you get there. So it's easy for you to sit there and plan. Like I remember, this was many, many years ago when we were still going to the Weight Watcher meetings. And I remember the one before Thanksgiving, they always did it. And you had like when they were passing out paper things, and they had like a plate, and they had all of the common staples and how many points they were. So they had turkey, dressing, I think like mac and cheese, sweet potato casserole or something. Like they had a whole bunch of stuff on there, or like a dinner roll. And so you knew how many points you were going to have. So then you were able to put, okay, so I'm going to have this, 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 and almost like you make your own menu. So that way you can kind of go in there with an idea. And I think it is very helpful that it is the once a year signature dinner, and you know what you're going into. So to have that plan, I mean, write it down if that works for you, or, just sit down maybe the day before and, talk it out or whatever. But going in with a plan is really going to help you be successful.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remind yourself, and we're going to talk about this a lot as we go through this, like what to do. The main thing to do is have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow the food and the holidays to control your life. Have fun. So part of your plan might be, I'm about to eat.
Mm-hmm.
That's my plan. Like my plan last year was and it's so funny because I remember telling my Weight Watchers crew, because we went walking in the morning, because we do a turkey trot every year with my Weight Watchers crew, which we didn't get to do this year. But we were getting ready to leave and we were all talking about our plans. And I was like, oh, I will be eating today. I will be eating a lot. I will be eating a lot of turkey, a lot of mashed potatoes. Like that was my plan, because I spend so much of my time being really strict and stringent, right? And really making sure that I am feeding my body and that I'm being healthy, that I just want to go into an environment and not think about it. Like I just want to eat. And maybe that might mean overeating and me regretting it afterwards. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
I think with that, I mean, you can even prioritize too, because I've gone into situations like that and said, I'm going to eat and I don't care. But at the same time, there's certain things that I don't really care about as much, and then other things that I am dying to eat. So like, if I like to go, especially at the dessert table when there's 50 million desserts, I want to have like a small piece of everything because I want to try everything.
Yeah.
So, but like there's certain like green bean casserole or something like that. I find that to be gross. So I won't eat that. So I think, or even prioritizing certain parties. Like I've gone to stuff before where it's like I'm going, not even so much as an obligation, but I know that the food is not going to be as great. So then I might be more regimented at that party. Whereas, at another one where I know the food is going to be really great and I'm going to save my splurging for that one.
Yeah. And I think like going, yesterday was Thanksgiving by the time we record this. So when I went yesterday, I filled up a lot on turkey. So I like to like lean more towards protein, right? So that she had butternut squash soup. I had a big bowl of that. I had a whole bunch of turkey, and I had some mashed potatoes, and then some bread. So it was like by the time we got to the desserts, I had filled up so much on turkey that I didn't have a whole bunch of dessert, but I was still like, I'm going to eat dessert. Like I'm not going to deprive myself. So part of your plan can be, I'm going to enjoy myself. And you'll find that even going in there and making a decision and not demonizing it will help you not go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, if I go with the plan of like, I can't eat this, this, and this, and then I go and I'm tempted and I'm telling myself, don't. Sometimes our bodies will like rebel even in the opposite direction, to where it's like, okay, now fill up so much that you're sick to your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas sometimes if I go and my plan is, I'm going to just enjoy eating. I'm not going to like feel like I'm punishing myself for everything I put on my plate, that my body will naturally it will relegate itself. So it was like, is that the word, relegate?
I don't know.
Whatever. It will create its it'll create its own boundaries, and it will I'll end up having a better time in general at the event itself, and then a better time in general with eating.
Right. I think you can also, a lot of people will do this is bring a healthy alternative. I know one of our cousins, I don't know if she still is vegan, but at least for a while she was vegan. And
Mhm.
I remember she would bring her own dishes and she didn't bring a ton, obviously, but she brought some and then had a couple dishes. So if people wanted it, they could. But, she came because she knew she was not going to eat like the turkey or whatever. So, and I know there was a recipe that we got a long time ago, which I don't know if we still have it, for crustless pumpkin pie,
Mhm.
which I mean, if you compare it to regular homemade Mama Gail's pumpkin pie, it's not going to measure up, but it was still good.
Yeah.
And so if we wanted to really have the pumpkin pie, but we didn't want to waste all of the points on it, that was a good alternative and it was easy to make. It tasted good. So I think sometimes bringing your own little dish or something that is going to be safe, that can really help you if you go with that healthy alternative in mind.
Yeah. And two, like another thing you can do when you're going to these family functions is if you know somebody else is kind of on the health journey as well. It's so nice to figure out like who's really trying to be serious about their health journey and kind of have a sober buddy. I know sometimes me and Abigail will be our own worst enemies with each other,
We're
or
not
we'll
we're
be
not good sober buddies for
or
each
we'll be
other.
super supportive. I will say this, like when it comes to like actual like eating events, right? Which we don't have a lot of them. But let's take for instance Christmas Eve. I'm not Christmas Eve is like when we have our big family get together and there's just a bunch of food that's not super healthy. I don't ever go in there telling Abigail like don't make sure. I'm like you pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
I will be eating. But we are on each other where when that day is over,
Yeah.
making sure like, okay,
Get back on it. It was
great.
yesterday. You
Yeah,
need to
that was
get
a
up and
great experience.
right.
But the next day, it's like, let's get back on plan. Let's get our workout back in, or even like making sure, hey, are you working out on Christmas Eve? Like before, like just make
Mhm.
sure you keep your body moving. It's, prepare, especially
Mhm.
because a lot of times your body's not even used to you eating that type of food. So it's like you're having a sober buddy to give you to talk about the things, like preparing yourself to go in. And then also to remind you, and we did this yesterday, if you eat and you start to have that guilt,
Mhm.
don't sit in it. It's
Right.
only a day. You know what I mean? Like if on Thanksgiving you overate and your stomach hurt, okay.
Mhm.
It's just one day and you're getting back to it. That's the most important thing. Like the question then is, okay, well, I hope you had a great time. I hope the food was good, which the majority of the time it is good.
Mhm.
So then the next statement is, okay, well, what are you doing tomorrow? And that's, well, I'm getting back on plan. Okay, perfect. Then we don't need to talk anymore about what you ate on Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve or Christmas or any of these other party days. What are you doing the other 90% of the time to make sure that you're back on?
Yeah. You can also fill up on the healthy options that are there. I know the healthy options are it's a very small percentage of the offerings, but I know a lot of parties, a lot of people will bring, like a veggie tray or some kind of salad. And I think it's just to balance out the carbs. Like, well, I guess we should throw something green in here because otherwise we're going to go into a carb coma. But I mean, there's always, usually at most events, there's always a staple protein like turkey, chicken. Some people do ham. So although ham is not, ham can be fattening as well. But if you stick with the protein, that'll help fill you up. And a lot of times it's healthier. If they have, some people bring fruit trays, although sometimes in the wintertime, they're not always in season. So you can't always count on that. But if you look for the healthy alternatives, and so maybe you get a giant spoonful, like a serving spoonful of turkey, and then get like a tiny little smaller serving of mashed potatoes, it's like you can kind of balance it out.
Yeah, and I think um when you're surveying, right, you can kind of figure out like what's worth it to me and what's not worth it.
Mhm.
I'm a big one for that. Like, I love dessert. So if I'm looking at dessert, I'm looking at everything that's on the table and I'm thinking, what is worth it and what can I pass on? I'll eat fudge, but I don't really like it like that. So
Mhm.
I'm like, do I want fudge or do I want these amazing cookies? Well, I'm obviously going to go for the amazing cookies. So it's kind of like a measuring, like what is worth it to me? What is something that I really want to eat, especially if it's like, once again, if we like go in there and like something that we really want, but we're telling ourselves, no, no, no. And that's all we think about the entire night, we're going to torture
Mhm.
ourselves. Just
Yeah.
eat it. Just eat it. And then
Mhm.
move on. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? And sometimes it's just a matter of getting the taste in our mouth, right? Sometimes it's
Mhm.
like, I want 10 cookies, but it's like, oh, if I just eat one or two, okay, that was good. That satisfied the craving. I can move on.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
I think another thing that you can do, and this one's an obvious, is to drink plenty of water and really to bring water with you. Cause I know a lot of
Mhm.
times at these like potlucks and parties, like they don't usually have like bottled water. Sometimes I know at ours they have Christmas punch, which is delicious, but
Mhm.
it's literally a gallon of ice cream dumped into a punch bowl with Sprite. So it's like,
Well, there's more in it than that. There's like some kind of cream concoction. It's delicious.
oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But it's just not the healthiest, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you know that you want to dive into the food, then maybe cut back on sugary drinks and bring water. And also, the more that you're hydrating yourself, the more that you're filling yourself up, so that you don't end up getting to the point where you're making yourself sick and eating well past your threshold.
Right. And I know some people out there are not huge water drinkers like we are. So, I mean, a lot of people, you can do like the crystal lights or the, low calorie or zero calorie drinks that, you want to try to stay away from the sugary ones or, so healthier options. But if you fill your stomach up with liquid, of course, that's going to be a lot easier for you, lower calories, and then you don't have as much room for all the extra carbs and other delicious things. Another thing that this actually was my pitfall yesterday. So, one thing that you want to do is say no to leftovers. Um, you need to go in there sometimes. And I think a lot of times, like yesterday, so went to my aunt's house. We had a lot of really good food and it was a whole lot of carbs. And so, I mean, I ate a good amount, but nothing crazy. But so at the end, and usually I don't take leftovers, but I got tempted. And of course, at the end, do you want to take these? I was like, well, give me a little bit of the dressing. I wanted another piece of the pumpkin pie. My cousin made this fudge, which I'm not a huge fudge person either, but she had like melted caramel over it with sea
Oh,
salt. It was really good.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I'll take some more of those. And so then, like, I got home, and of course, like, I can't have bad food sitting in my house. I have to have one day and get all of the bad decisions out in one day. And then I have to get back on it because if I get out of my routine, I am going to set myself up for failure. So, of course, I get home. It had been like, 3 or 4 hours later. So I'm like, okay, it's technically dinner time. So I'm going to have this food. I am telling you, I got so sick. It was like uncomfortably sick. I had to call Amy to talk me down. Like, I can't believe I just did that. I'm in just in a shame spiral. And yeah, you definitely talked me through it. But I think if I had gone in with that plan in my mind that I am going to enjoy the food and leave it here and not, which is, it's very out of character for me. Usually I don't take that kind of food into my house, but I would say I would recommend if you have issues, especially, with overeating and having treats at your house, say no to leftovers. Just don't do it.
Yeah. I feel like it can become when you take the food home, right? It's like it's boredom eating because
Mhm.
that's why, like, we've talked about this before, like there's certain food that I just don't allow in my house.
Right.
And I went to a Friendsgiving last week and I made a cake, and it's a Heath bar cake. It's the most delicious cake
Yum.
on the planet. So, and it's just not the healthiest, right? Because it's like you make the cake, you stick holes in it, you pour sweetened condensed milk over it, which then soaks into the cake. Then you pour caramel, soaks into the cake. You put whipped cream on top, and then you just sprinkle Heath pieces everywhere. Delicious.
Mm-hmm.
So I take it to the Friendsgiving, and people ate it, but there was like 4 very large pieces left because there was a lot of food. So we're getting ready to leave, and they're like doing to-go plates. And so I'm like a little like confused. I'm just ready to leave. I'm getting tired. So somebody's like, I'll make you a to-go plate. And I was like, I don't want a to-go plate. And he was like, well, there's so much food. I'll just make you one. And I'm like, okay. So then I'm like standing there, and someone walks up to me and hands me my pan of cake.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it and I'm holding it, and I'm like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
I don't want it. So then and it was so noisy in the room, right? It's like chaos. There's music playing, and I'm literally walking around with this pan saying, I don't want this.
Well, you know, and it's so, I feel like our eyes are always bigger than our stomachs, even when planning. Like last year when we had Christmas at our house, I remember it's like, I think we had maybe 8 people at our house. And I come and I look, I'm like, why do we have all of this food?
Yeah.
We could have fed 20 people.
Yeah.
And
I think that's too. Like you
Yeah.
make so much more. It's like every year when mom makes cookies,
Mhm.
she makes like 3 dozen.
Yeah.
And
And
then-
you feel guilty about throwing it away. Like at the end of the
Yeah.
night, you don't want to be like, okay, somebody take this home. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Throw it in the garbage? You know, you
Yeah.
feel guilty about doing that.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I mean, like in that moment, I would have thrown that cake away and not felt
Yeah.
any guilt. Because the opposite of it would have been me taking this big tin pan home and putting it in the refrigerator and being like, oh, I'll give it to somebody, or I'll just like eat it slowly. Maybe I'll have it like every night for dessert or something.
Mhm.
And a half hour later, I guarantee I would have been sitting in front of the TV watching a show and would have gotten the pan. I wouldn't even gotten a plate. I would
Yeah.
have gotten the pan, opened the lid, and just ate the 4 pieces of cake from the pan. I know me.
Right.
So I was almost in tears leaving because someone then
I can just imagine you. Please take this.
I know. Somebody put 2 take-home plates on top of the pan plus the pan. So I was walking and I was like, I don't want this. Why do I have this? So then one of my friends came up and he was like, are you okay? I was like, no. I said I don't want it. Just give this to someone. And he was like, okay. So then I turned around and I was like, what did you do with the pan? He's like, you don't need to know. I was like, you're right. Just put it away from my face. Because then when I went home that night, I didn't get home till like 1 a.m. And I was like, thank God I got rid of all of that. Because I started like feeling like, oh, I need food. And I would have just turned to that. So I think sometimes it's okay to say no to leftovers. And it's okay if you have leftovers to give it to somebody who wants them.
Right.
Not to fill your home with extras and believe that you're going to parcel it out. Because what's normally going to happen is you're probably going to eat it all the next day anyways.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so one of the things that's also super important is that, and I said this at the beginning, that the holidays are not just about eating, even though they've become about eating, but the holidays are an opportunity for you to see people you haven't seen in a long time. They're opportunities to be with your family. And I think we forget that a lot, right? So one thing too is like go in with a plan about eating, but also go in with a plan on how you are going to socialize. Who haven't you talked to in a while? Can you make a goal of making sure that you talk to a certain amount of people, right? If you have family gatherings, can you volunteer to like organize games? Because that'll keep you busy. You know what I mean? That'll keep you talking and moving. Can you play games? Can you do other things than just sit and eat, right? And I think that sometimes when it comes to the holidays that we forget, because I remember last year I was, mom had so much stuff in her refrigerator.
Yeah.
Just so much. I think she was like, she made the cookie dough batter 2 days before she was cooking them. And I
Oh,
was like, why would you do this?
that's the only thing better than her actual cookies is
I
that batter.
know. Because then I'm like, I open the refrigerator, the big familiar bowl with the tin foil.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll just have 7 cookies worth of cookie dough, you know?
Right.
And I kept like telling myself, you need to stay on track. Like, I
Hmm.
was like beating myself up. So I like messaged my some of my accountability crew and I'm like, this is torture. I'm at my mom's house. I feel like I'm eating so much. So one of the ladies was like, you are at your mom's house. You're not normally at your mom's house. You are with your family. You're not normally with your family. Enjoy the time. You have the rest of the year. Enjoy the time. She was like, definitely stay on track. But if you don't, get over it and remember why you're there. And that was like a good, like, shake me out of it type of moment. Because even when I think about dad's last Christmas, I was supposed to, we were supposed to go out to eat um, the the day before I was flying out. Well, I was tired and I had eaten so much since being there. And I was like, man, I don't want to go out to eat because I don't want to eat, like, overeat again. And like, I made it all about the food. So I ended up not even going out to eat with him. I ended up just like stopping by his house and he was super disappointed. And that was the last time that I saw him in person, you know? And I
Hmm.
think back to that a lot, like how petty, like that I'm making the food bigger than the moments, bigger than the family, like the connection, the time spent, the stories shared. Like that's the important part.
Hmm.
Food is just the secondary part. So don't
Right.
allow that to get so much in the spotlight that you forget that your family, the time with your family is not promised. It's not forever. Enjoy it. Be active with it. And even if you're not a super social person, still have like specific times through the meal where you're challenging yourself to get up and talk to somebody else instead of getting up and going back to the table spread.
That's really beautiful. Because, yeah, it's very difficult to be eating while you're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday because we did a lot of talking and storytelling, and when it was my turn, when somebody had asked me a question and I was telling a story or anything, you can't be shoving your face while you're trying to tell a story. It just doesn't work. So then I noticed, like, I'm sitting here, like my fork is down. So yeah, and plus, like you said, that's the time. A lot of times I only see these people, a few times a year.
Yeah.
Certain family members, I don't see them a lot. So then it's nice to be able to catch up and because I mean, really, if it was all about the food, I could buy some of that stuff.
Right.
I
Real
could,
food.
right, exactly. Or I could just ask mom, hey, could you make me this
Yeah.
dozen cookies? So that's really not the focus. We think that it is sometimes, but it's really not. So,
Yeah.
and that's where you're going to get your good memories. It's not going to be about Aunt Glenda's cookies. It's going to be, hanging out with family and the good times and everything.
Yeah.
Another thing that is really good and it's going to help you is to up your activity around the holidays. I know one thing that did help me yesterday is I did a 45-minute workout in the morning before I went. So it helped me feel a little bit better about my poor decision making. But even, the week of or, the week before, whatever, just up your activity. I know a couple of times when I was still living with mom and you came home, I think there was a couple of times we actually worked out together. We did like a couples workout. And so I think it really helps, first of all, get your mindset in the right place because then you kind of are in that headspace of I'm trying to be healthy. It reminds you, hey, I still have a goal I want to achieve. I don't want to just, sit there and eat everything in sight. And then it also gives you that added benefit of, I am going to eat a lot, but I have a cushion because I've been extra active. I've burned more calories. So, good plan. If you're really wanting to be successful, up your activity. It's going to help you out.
Yeah. Another thing too is making sure that during your weeks, right, that you stay as true to your regimen as possible. So, like, for me, I'm similar. So yesterday I went to a cycling class in the morning, and I actually ended up biking to the house that I was eating at. And it was like a 40-minute bike ride, but it was so nice and it felt so good to move my body. Um, but I think it's important on the off days that you're sticking with your routine, right? That you're sticking with your meal plans, that you're still trying to that you're trying to get your workouts in, that even though your schedule might be thrown off, it might feel a little bit more chaotic, do your best to stay on track on the off days, on the days when you don't have the parties or you don't have the potlucks, or even if you have the potlucks. Don't starve yourself through the day and wait for the potluck at night. Like,
Hmm.
still try to have a healthy breakfast, a healthy lunch, so then when you get to the potluck, you can still eat something and not starve yourself, but also still be keeping your body on as much of a routine as possible. Because what happens is that sometimes people just like throw it all in the towel. It's like, well, I have 2 parties this week, so I might as well just give up on the whole week. Well, the
Hmm.
problem is that what's happening is when you're getting out of your routine, that's when you're inviting chaos back into your life. And that's where a lot of stress can come in. That's where depression can set in. And you've spent all this time making progress. Like, don't
Yeah.
throw all your progress away on 2 or 3 parties. Like, you can do it, you can get through it. Just stay as true as you can to your routine, and then still allow yourself some breathing room. So, like Christmas Eve, I'm going to eat.
Hmm.
However, I'll be up in the morning and I'll be doing my normal workout, and I'll also be eating breakfast. I'm not starving myself until dinner. So that, like, just make sure that you're trying to be as on as you can through the other days and you're not just throwing in the towel completely.
Right. And ultimately, what you want to remember is, this is a holiday. This is a time for you to enjoy yourself. You want to enjoy the food. You want to enjoy your time with family. So enjoy it. Just don't go overboard. Know what your limits are. And if you do go overboard and something happens, forgive yourself. And remember, this is one day in my entire life. This is not going to be the end of me. And this is not what is going to take me off of this journey. I had this small detour one day. It doesn't ruin you. So I think it's so important to have that attitude and that mindset to remember, what? This is a fun day. This is a good time, a celebration. And yes,